Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today's terrifying tale comes from Reddit user Juggernaut666, and it's a horrifying story about an unexpected visitor in the middle of a zombie attack. So let's jump into it. It was early evening in the small town of Ashton, Illinois. As a National Guardsman, I was on patrol with two other soldiers guarding one of the main intersections into town. It had been 3 weeks since the outbreak, and the only people left in the town were US guardsmen, a handful of police officers, and a few civilians who refused to leave. The guards had set up roadblocks at all the major intersections in the town, as well as sandbagged the entrances to the bridges over the river that ran through Ashton. This was to prevent any looters or infected from entering the town. For the last 2 weeks, things had been pretty quiet, except for a few stray dogs running around and the occasional infected person wandering into town looking for brains. Our orders were to shoot on sight any infected we came across. We also had strict orders not to engage any humans unless fired upon first. We were told to treat the remaining civilians in Ashton like a normal patrol. The first 2 weeks of this nightmare had gone by without incident until tonight. My partner and I were sitting in the back of our truck watching the other intersection of our quadrant when we saw something weird. There was a group of 5 people walking out of a side street, and they were staggering toward the intersection just like the infected do. They looked kind of pale and their clothes were torn, but they didn't look injured. As they got closer, we could see that they were all holding hands in a circle and swaying back and forth. I whispered to my partner, "Hey, are those people drunk?" He whispered back, "I don't know, but I don't think so." As they reached the intersection, we could hear them moaning, but it wasn't the moan of the infected. It was more like a sad, drawn-out whisper. They got to the intersection and started swaying side to side, blocking traffic. So I rolled down my window and yelled, "Hey, get out of the road, you're blocking traffic." One of the girls in the group turned around and looked at me and she screamed. The other 4 also turned around and started screaming. I was stunned by what I saw. Their eyes were black and soulless. Their teeth were bared in a snarl and their mouths were covered in what looked like blood and saliva. They started sprinting towards us and I yelled, "Get down!" My partner and I hit the deck just as the first girl reached the truck. She was snarling and drooling. She tried to open the door, but thankfully it was locked. She started pounding on the glass and screaming. I grabbed my rifle and yelled, "Hey, get away from the vehicle. You need to get away from the vehicle." She stopped banging on the window and turned to face me. That's when I saw the bite on her arm. It was fresh and there was blood all over her hand and the surrounding area. She took a step towards me and I shot her once in the chest. She froze for a second and then she fell to her knees. I shot her again and she crumpled to the ground. The others had reached the truck now and they were banging on it and screaming. I shot the girl closest to me in the shoulder and she fell back. The one behind her lunged for the door and I shot her in the chest. Another one lunged at me and I shot him in the head. The last one was kneeling by the first girl and I shot him in the leg. He looked up at me and screamed. I shot him again and he died where he was kneeling. My partner and I started yelling for backup, and we got the 4 remaining soldiers from the other intersections to come over. When they got there, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. We had killed 5 people, but they weren't infected. What the hell had just happened? As we stood there trying to figure out what to do next, one of the soldiers noticed something. The girl who I had shot in the shoulder had moved. She had crawled under the truck and was trying to hide. He yelled at me, "She's alive. She's still alive." I couldn't believe it. How could she be alive after I shot her? I ran around the truck and sure enough, she was alive. She looked up at me with those same black, soulless eyes and she tried to lunge for me, but she was too weak. I shot her again and she died. That's when we heard the voice. It was coming from above us. We all looked up and saw a man standing on the roof of a building across the street. He was tall and muscular, and he had a megaphone in his hand. He was yelling, "Get out of town. You will die here. Get out of town, you will die here." Then he jumped into another building and disappeared. We were confused and scared. Who was that guy? Why was he helping the zombies? Was he one of them? We stayed at that intersection all night, constantly on guard for anything else to happen. But thankfully, nothing did. In the morning after, of course, I hadn't slept at all. I went back to the intersection to see if I could find the body of the man who had spoken to us. Maybe if we knew who he was, we could get some answers. But when I got there, the bodies were gone. The only evidence that they had ever been there was a slight discoloration on the asphalt where they had been lying. Over the next few days, we caught glimpses of the man on the roof. He would wave to us and encourage the zombies to eat us. Sometimes he would come out onto the street and kick the zombies as they shambled past him. But we never got close enough to him to try to capture him or question him. Then one day the military came to Ashton. They had finally decided to flatten the town because it wasn't worth trying to hold anymore. We loaded ourselves and the surviving civilians into trucks and headed out of town. Before we reached the bridge, we saw the man standing in the middle of the road waving at us. He was smiling, and his teeth were long and sharp like a shark's. The last thing I remember is him opening his mouth and screaming, "Welcome to the Flesh-Eating Club." Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this guy right here has probably earned himself a spot on the all-time great horror stories list. There's just something so terrifying about the idea that there might be human beings out there that are willing to turn other humans into zombies. And of course, the fact that this guy actually thinks that he can invite people to join his flesh-eating club really sells it. This entire story is just so disturbing. And it makes me wonder what else is out there. Like, are there other groups of people out there who are doing the same thing? Are there even worse things happening that we don't know about? It's hard to say, but one thing's for sure. If this story is true, then we should be very careful about who we trust. So, yeah, if you want to learn more about how to protect yourself in a world overrun by flesh-eating zombies, then I highly recommend checking out this video right here. Also, if you want to help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to be notified about new videos, then make sure to enable notifications. Thanks for watching, and take care.